Hey there, I'm Sandy Reese, Chief Encouragement Officer here at Get Fully Funded, where we help small nonprofits learn how to raise the money they need to fully fund their mission. I'm here to help you learn how to master the art and science of fundraising, and I've got a great tip for you in just a moment. But before we get to that, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that the next time we post a really great tip like this one, you're among the first to know. Okay, on to this week's tip.
A lot of organizations, especially when they're young and they're thinking about revenue and they're thinking about how do we get money in, one of the first things that pops in mind is grants. Most everybody's heard of grants. It seems like it's free money, right? And a really common thing that happens is they think, well, I don't really know how to do that. I don't have time. Let's just hire a grant writer. And that seems like a good idea, and in a lot of instances it is, but there's a lot of organizations that make some mistakes. So I want to share 3 really common mistakes with you, and in the hopes that you can avoid making these mistakes, and if the time is right for you, you can set up a really nice relationship with the right grant writer and make this work for you. By the way, there's a whole article over on our blog at getfullyfunded.com/blog that'll walk you through the steps of how to get ready for and choose and hire the right grant writer. But I just want to focus on these 3 mistakes for right now. Okay. Mistake number 1 is organizations try to hire a grant writer when they're not ready to go after grants. You see, the problem is, even though there's billions of dollars given away in the United States every year from foundations, so there's billions in grants, not every foundation is a fit for you, and not every organization is ready to go after grants. So what do I mean by that? Some organizations are too young. A lot of foundations want to see at least 3 years of experience under your belt. They want to see 3 years of numbers from your programs so that they know that what you're doing is working. They want to see that before they'll give you money. A lot of foundations are a little nervous about being the first one to fund your program. They would like to see you raising money from the community, building a donor base, doing some other things first. So that gets in the way of a lot of organizations, is that they're just not old enough yet to go after grants. So if you have a brand new organization and you think, we'll just get grants, it's probably not going to work. We get those phone calls here just about every week, and we're sad when we have to disappoint people that that's not going to work out for you. The other piece of readiness is sometimes there's organizations that are old enough, but they don't have the systems in place. They're not ready for the responsibility of tracking the expenses. They don't have the right accounting systems set up. They have not clearly identified the outcomes and the measurements they need to have in place for their programs. Not to mention the fact they have no documents ready to submit with a grant. Now, grants from private foundations come in all kinds of flavors and shapes and sizes. Some of them are very simple. Some of them say, just send me a letter and tell me what you need. That's really easy. And some of them have very detailed applications that you have to fill out online, and there are word counts and character counts, and you can only have this many words, and you got to submit this and this and this and this. Well, if you don't have all that ready, don't hire a grant writer unless you hire them with the understanding that they're going to create all of that for you. But you need that understanding in place. There's nothing more frustrating for a grant writer than jumping in to help somebody and they don't have an organizational budget. They have no goals for their programs. They can't tell you who their target audience is for their program. They're not measuring anything. They're just like, we just want to do good work. We just want to, maybe it's a food pantry and they say, well, we just want to feed people. Okay, that's fine if you want to feed people, and I know that makes your heart warm, but this day and age, funders are very savvy, and they want to know that if they give you $10,000, that you're going to have a good return on that investment. They want to know how many people is that going to feed. They want to know what's your track record and what does it cost you to provide an emergency food box. So you have to know your numbers. You have to have an organizational budget. You have to have program budgets. You have to have program narratives. You got to have all this stuff nailed down. If you don't, you're not ready. Now, again, if you want help with that, you can probably hire somebody to help you put all that together. But if you're expecting to hire a grant writer and them just come in and wave their magic wand and change, oh presto, you got money, it's probably not going to work that way. So be sure you're ready before you go after grants. What goes right along with that is unrealistic expectations. This is mistake number 2. Unrealistic expectations is back to that thing where you think, well, we'll just hire a grant writer and they'll just bring in tons of money. It doesn't work that way necessarily. Every foundation is different. I'm talking about private foundations here. Government grants, that's a whole different ball of wax. And you really need your ducks in a row before you go after government grants. But with private foundations, every foundation is different. They all have different requirements, different processes, different deadlines. They're looking for different kinds of things. And so you have to be ready to respond to each one individually. The other piece of that is that some foundations will give you money for getting a program started and off the ground. Another foundation might give you money to expand a program. Some foundations will give you money for capacity building, so being able to grow your organization's ability to do good work. They're all different. So if your expectation is that you're going to hire a grant writer and they're just going to completely fund your budget of $100,000 or $150,000 or whatever your budget is, that's tough. And it's probably not going to happen. That's very unrealistic. So it might be a really good idea to have a conversation with a grant writer and talk about what is realistic. Now, we have a grant writer here on staff at Get Fully Funded, and she's awesome. She can get grants when other times I'm scratching my head going, I don't have any idea how I would approach that. She knows she can find a way to position something so that it could possibly be a fit for a foundation. And we get all kinds of different grants, but not a single one of our grant writing clients can we fully fund their budget with grants, nor would we want to. That becomes dangerous. You want diversified revenue. So it's a good idea to get the grant money, like go after the grants that you can, but you need to also build your donor base, and you need to have a signature event during the year that people can support and you can get corporate sponsors for. You might want to build a monthly giving program. Maybe there's some other revenue streams you want to create so that you're building stability and sustainability for your organization. That's the other piece about that goes under unrealistic expectations is you might get a $10,000 grant this year from a foundation, and then they may not give you any money next year. And that could have something to do with the fact that maybe they don't want to fund the same organization 2 years in a row. Or maybe if you don't have the systems in place and you don't provide them with the information they need and the follow-up, they're not going to give you money again. So there's an awful lot that goes in that. You want to be ready. Mistake number 1 was not being ready. Mistake number 2 is having unrealistic expectations. Now, for mistake number 3, and I see my friend Jamie here, she's going to chime in and say yes on this one. Mistake number 3 is not being realistic about how to pay your grant writer. This is a huge problem in the world of hiring a grant writer. And it comes from the fact that in the world of business, we're used to paying salespeople a commission, right? I have a friend who sells cellular phone systems to very large corporations. She's very good at what she does, and the more she sells, the more money she makes, right? Well, in the world of nonprofit, particularly in grant writing, it does not work that way. You cannot pay a grant writer a percentage of what they bring in. Why? Because the foundation is expecting the whole grant to be used for programs. They expect the grant to be used as was described in the proposal. Now, if you build in, if it's possible, if the foundation is okay with it, you can build in money for paying the grant writer, but that doesn't happen very often. So what do? You got some choices. You can either pay that grant writer by the hour, which I don't know about you, but that makes me a little nervous because I always think, well, if this is somebody I've never worked with before, I don't know how long it's going to take. And I don't want to start down this road and me think, well, this is going to, they probably whip this out in 4 or 5 hours. And then they come back and tell me it took them 23 hours to get it done. Okay, so hourly, but be very clear up front with the grant writer. You might even want to let them look at the grant and estimate for you how long they think it's going to take. That's not a bad way to go. It can be hard, but a good grant writer who's been doing this a while and knows what they're doing, they'll be able to estimate it based on looking at the requirements for the grant. The other thing that you can do is pay them by the project or pay them by the grant. Maybe you hire somebody and have them do research for you first. We do this. We always start with research just so we can see what's available. And once we have the research done, we can easily look at that list of grants and say, here's about how much time it's going to take. So tell you what, here's the price for the whole thing. We'll write all 10 of these grants for you for this much money, and it'll probably take us however many months to do that. So that's a good way to go too. Now, the thing about paying a grant writer, whether you pay them by the hour or by the project, or you sign up for a year's worth of services, whatever that looks like, that money is going to come out of your operating budget. So you need to be ready to pay that. Don't hire a grant writer thinking like, well, we don't really have any money right now, but we will in 30 days when they start bringing in the big bucks. It doesn't work that way. So you want to be realistic about paying them. All right, so here's your 3 mistakes. Mistake number 1 is a lot of small nonprofits are just not ready. They're either too young or they don't have their ducks in a row. They don't have all the documents they need. Mistake number 2 is unrealistic expectations about what the grant writer is going to be able to do, or how much money they can bring in, or how fast it'll come in, but just a lot of unrealistic expectations. And number 3 is not being realistic or understanding how to properly pay for a grant writer. So there you go. There's your 3 tips or 3 mistakes that a lot of small nonprofits make when it comes to hiring a grant writer. Now, there's a ton more that goes with this. And for those of you who just started watching, head on over to getfullyfunded.com/blog. We've got a whole article we just posted yesterday that'll give you some ideas about where to find a good grant writer and how to interview them, how to make sure that they're a good fit for you. All right, that is it for now, everybody. Have a great rest of your day, and hopefully I'll see you next week at the Inspired Fundraising Retreat. Bye.